a new client review. Let's see what it says. 1 star. The AC works great, but the tech was late and didn't text us to let us know. Yeah, well, maybe if we didn't write down addresses on sticky notes, that wouldn't have happened. Ugh.
Are you a home service professional who still runs your business with pen, paper, and spreadsheets? It's time to automate your office with Jobber and swear off the old-fashioned way of running a business for good. Quoting, scheduling, invoicing, reviews, and getting paid all with one tool. Start your free trial today at jobber.com.
Hi, it's Martha Stewart. You know, I spend a lot of time thinking about dirt. At 3 a.m., at all hours of the day, really. What people don't know is that not all dirt is the same. You need dirt with the right kind of nutrients. New Miracle-Gro organic raised bed and garden soil is so dense, so full of nutrient-rich, high-quality ingredients. Miracle-Gro is simply the best.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, a socialite is charged with shooting a police officer in Belize. Is her boyfriend and his billionaire father exerting their influence to save her or to ensure her conviction? We'll review the podcast White Devil from Campside Media. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband, love of my life, and very white t-shirt wearer, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us.
This is because The Bear is coming back on Hulu.
Yeah.
And cousin, what's his name?
Cousin?
Yeah, not the tall, the main character there.
Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah, what's his name? Bear.
Carmy? You're talking about Carmy?
Carmy,
Yeah.
He's always got that very high-end, like, white T-shirt that he wears because he's in the kitchen.
That people have sourced because it's, like, so fancy.
Yeah, so I got, like, a nice... Not like a Hanes underwear shirt, but like a nice, thick, big one. And now I'm wearing it, and you're right, it just looks like I'm in my underwear.
Well, also, we have a really hard water situation at our house, so like our whites do not stay super white. So enjoy it, babe.
I'm enjoying it. Yes.
Enjoy it.
Yep.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of The Final Curtain, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca, and I'm coming to you today from Vermont in like sort of a lodge situation with a giant stone fireplace behind me. So
I see that, and it's very preppy. There's actually a Dartmouth banner behind you, class of 94.
Yeah.
Is that like an Airbnb situation?
No, I'm at my friend Mary's house. Her husband is a Dartmouth grad, and this is like, there's like old cross-country skis on the wall. It's super rustic, super quaint as fuck.
Yeah. And finally, our captain of all things cynical, author of the City Trilogy of novels, host of Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, our infirm friend, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
Toby, you've got an injury. You're on crutches. What's going on?
I don't know what the full extent of it is, but I apparently partially tore my Achilles tendon playing soccer.
How are you going to find out the full extent?
I got an MRI yesterday, and then 3 days from now, I'll go to the orthopedist. He will tell me what the MRI looked like and tell me whether I need surgery or I can just do physical therapy or whatever. But for right now, I'm in one of those boots and crutching around.
What kind of music did you select for your MRI?
It wasn't one of those.
Oh.
His foot was going in, not his head.
Oh, I've gone in with my leg and they've still given me music.
Yeah, so I'm like pretty claustrophobic. So I actually, when I had knee surgery, they're like, "Are you claustrophobic?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, here's a prescription for a Xanax. Why don't you take that?" And so I was like, okay. So I took the Xanax.
He's going to abuse Xanax.
And I like go and I show up and they're like, "Okay, you ready to do this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah. I took my Xanax." And they're like, "Okay." And then they bring me in or whatever. And they literally like they stuck my leg in up to like mid thigh. And that was it. Otherwise I was just sitting in a chair. So I was essentially
cool.
They're like, "Really? You had to is that stressful for you?" So this time I said that I was claustrophobic and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's not gonna be a problem." I mean, I was basically trying to stay awake because I knew if I fell asleep, I'd like move and then would screw up the stuff. So it was pretty chill.
So Toby ruptures his Achilles playing indoor soccer in a very manly way, goes to the emergency room. And I went to the emergency room because I flinched and got hit in the ear by a 9-year-old's pitch.
Yes. I got a cauliflower ear.
Yeah, and they said,
no.
I know, right?
Oh, no.
And it was like $600 a visit to the emergency room, and I was like,
and they didn't do anything.
That wiped out all the money I made doing baseball for 9 and 10-year-olds.
Yes,
so
but they didn't even do anything. It was
no,
so
they just said, nope, can't really do anything for that. And I felt stupid.
But our friend who was a surgeon did tell you it was the right thing to do, to go to the
Yeah, because if he gets
room.
cauliflower, but it didn't break the cartilage above, it just swelled. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
You didn't want to be like that guy Conor McGregor for the rest of your life,
no,
right?
I do not want to look like that.
All right, so Kevin, this is obviously Monday's program.
It is.
What is coming up on Thursday's program?
On Thursday, we're going to be talking about the podcast series Slow Burn. It's actually their 9th season of Slow Burn, Gays Against Briggs.
All right, looking forward to that one. In the meantime, we've got another podcast we need to talk about, so I think we should get to it. What do you think?
Jump on in.
All right, leading off.
The exact truth of what happened in Belize on May 28th, 2021 isn't knowable in any objective way. There were 2 people there, alone on an isolated pier, and only one survived to talk about it.
In May of 2021, Belize Police Superintendent Henry Jammott was shot in the head with his own service weapon. Investigators arrested socialite Jasmine Hartin, who claimed the gun accidentally fired while Jammott was teaching her how to handle it.
I didn't know what was going on. It was like a bad dream. And I guess he forgot that he had something in the top of the gun. And that's when the gun just went off.
Many in Belize assumed Hartin would get special consideration because her common-law husband was the son of British billionaire Lord Michael Ashcroft. Instead, Hartin believed the Ashcrofts weren't using their considerable clout to help her. They were doing all they could to bend the rules, convict her, and cut her out of the family and its fortune.
These are powerful people, powerful players that are doing this in the public domain. I mean, this is happening before our eyes in the news. And no politician, none of the local women's groups, no one was coming out to support this poor woman who I felt was fending off all these lions by herself.
In the 12-part series, White Devil from Campside Media, host Josh Dean uses extensive interviews with Hartin to dig into the puzzling investigation of the shooting, as well as examine her high-stakes custody case and financial disputes with the Ashcrofts. It also looks into the depths of corruption in Belize and the unchecked influence of a businessman dubbed by locals as a White Devil. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about plot points from White Devil. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So Laura, this podcast has a lot of ingredients and a recipe that you generally enjoy, right?
Yeah. So we've got a crime in an interesting location, Belize. We have somebody that at first blush is being taken advantage of by the system and people in power. And we have a host who is bringing that out to the public in terms of, is this person being taken advantage of? So, in the beginning, before we get to that, we're like, okay, rich white woman killing black cop. Okay, we see where this is going. That is not where it's going. And you assume, given the fact that when you hear about her in the beginning, her father-in-law is very influential, she's just going to get off and she's going to walk free. And that is not the case. And that is where the rage walking begins.
So, Toby, we listened to this all at once as sort of a binge. Did that work for you with this story?
It kind of didn't. It was interesting because I don't check to see what you guys have in like the notes before we do this. But I did on this because I just had so many thoughts and I wanted to know if I was like out on my own or whether other people were sort of thinking the same way. It's sort of the sprawling story, right? It's almost like a saga. Like there's definitely at least 2 generations worth of story that go into this. There's a lot of stuff about corruption in Belize and how Belize works. There's a cast of like dozens and dozens of people. It's just really hard to keep track of. So I was trying to figure out whether my feeling like things were kind of a little fractured had to do with the fact that I was listening to them one after another, because it's like 11 hours of listening or something that we were doing over the course of a week. There were times at which like the main storyline would kind of disappear for a couple of episodes where they'd go and sort of do a historical look at this aristocratic family or what have you. And then you get back to the story. And then it's like, well, maybe that would be weird to like be listening to this thing and like for 3 weeks, there's no real new information about the actual case that they're looking at, which is a long way of saying, you know, I struggled with this a little bit, and we can kind of talk about why more as we go along. But to me, it seemed very, very ambitious in a way that I'm sort of prone to like. I kind of like these sort of ambitious but flawed projects. I like the stuff like the vestiges of the British Empire. So all those sort of elements were there, but it just felt very unwieldy to me.
Yeah. So Kevin, the podcast very much depends on Jasmine as the center of the story, right? And looking at your notes, I think we feel similarly about that. And, you know, we both like and respect Josh Dean as a reporter a lot, obviously. However, I believe that Jasmine at the center of the story is kind of problematic in a few ways. What do you think about her as sort of a central figure here and her voice being so important and integral to his reporting in the story?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Toby that it's sprawling. And to that end, it's like I'm not sure who I should be rooting for and what I'm supposed to be watching for. The podcast leans in perhaps way too much on the views of Jasmine. And, you know, it's in part because the Ashcrofts aren't participating and you're getting sort of limited access to people who are not in Jasmine's camp. But there's not a lot of pushback on the things that Jasmine is saying or her views of what is happening to her in real time. At one point, Josh literally says she's an unreliable narrator, but then largely takes her word on like so many details.
Like, I cannot believe the commissioner of police in Belize is like actually giving press conferences about it.
No, he doesn't believe it. It's because the commissioner is in the pocket of Ashcroft and they're like, run with this. Like, he's just like a dog to them. Like, he's the dog with a bone right now and they're just running with it.
This is how far gone she was. Suspecting the Ashcrofts of being behind everything.
I was taken by Josh's use of the word paranoia to describe some of Jasmine's assertions, but then again, I'm like, I don't know whether I like her or not, right? And that's like really important as a listener. It's a big part of wanting to care for your protagonist. Is she the hero of the story or is she the villain of the story? We meet her after she is arrested for shooting a cop. And there are differing stories that we hear in the very beginning about what she said happened. So to the end of episode 1, start of episode 2, to like want to get to know her on a closer level, it just felt discordant to me.
Yeah.
So she's certainly a figure of derision in the local media and the British press, but someone who's not known in our part of the world. So I'm mostly puzzled by who she is.
Well, later in the podcast too, we literally hear him say, we have no reason to believe that her version of the story isn't true. We literally hear him say that. And it's like, well, one reason to not believe it is just because of skepticism, generally. Like, you know, the one reason to believe it is that she wouldn't tell you otherwise. Like, that is one reason to believe that her version of the story isn't true, because her version of the story makes her look the best of any other version that could be told, right?
Right. I mean, you don't even have to like just get into the idea of why did this cop get shot behind the ear while you were holding it. You don't even have to like get into like, is she credible in this way?
Right.
There's all these other things going around, around her, where she's also making assertions that the Ashcrofts are pulling the strings on this and on that, and it's just...
Well, there's that. I mean, let's talk about the actual thing itself. Like, he was handling his firearm while drinking. She was also handling a firearm while drinking.
In possession of cocaine. Yeah.
That's just stupid.
Yeah. So that being said, I will say something else about the Jasmine story that kind of, I'll tell you, like, from the Josh angle kind of bothered me. So there's a lot in here about the separation from her boyfriend, Andrew, her longtime partner, Andrew, okay? And we hear a very clinical description of their relationship. They were living together as partners. They had decided to not be romantic anymore. And that's just sort of taken at face value. So they're living together as partners, their separate lives, all yada. And then we hear that when this happens, there's sort of this nasty breakup. He's using the kids as pawns. He's not letting her see them. He's committing all this sort of like financially abusive stuff, keeping her from her money. And Josh approaches this like it is a singularly unique and horrible situation. And I'm hearing this and I'm like, I know so many people who have been through divorces like this.
Happens all the time.
It's so fucking common.
Without billions of dollars.
And Josh is like, why would any father who purports to be a good father do this to his children? I'm like, Ask literally anybody who's been divorced, almost. And I feel like you're very fortunate if you don't know 20 people who have been through almost exactly this situation. But Laura, I mean, doesn't a lot of this just read to you like, except for the number of zeros at the end of it?
Right.
Very common divorce/custody tactics. And there's all this deep dive reporting being done on stuff that actually is sort of just very, I hate to call it normal, but in many ways very normal.
Well, yeah, very common and not uncommon to hear about. So yeah, as somebody who's worked in the criminal justice system, as somebody of a certain age who has a lot of friends, when you're in your 40s, it's like you have friends who are going through divorce. I've been through divorce. I was lucky I didn't have this sort of a situation, but I know lots of people that have this situation where you're like, okay, now they're using the kids as pawns. And now
there's a disparity with money. One person has a lot more than the other.
Yeah. One person has the fancy lawyer. One person has the other lawyer. Like in my work in the criminal justice system, I often see situations where then all of a sudden you have kids making allegations about things. And you're like, are these true? Is this part of the custody battle? You have people who are like, fuck you, I'm going to come pick up the kids and take them here. Or like, I'm going to take them there, which is exactly what's happening in this case. So it's maddening to me to listen to. It's one of those things that just pisses me off because I feel like adults should take the higher road for the sake of their kids. But at the same time, they become juvenile when they go through divorces. And I think that's what we're hearing here. We're hearing like two immature people who are going through a divorce and the man has more money. And so he can just be like, I'm going to Turks and Caicos now with my nanny and my children. And I'm like, can I go to Turks and Caicos with my nanny? I would like my nanny to come with me to Turks and Caicos. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that is the challenge here is that it's being portrayed like, well, this is only happening because the Ashcroft family is so wealthy and because they're so influential and because da-da-da-da. But like this happens all the time.
Yeah. Toby, do you think it's a mistake to sort of conflate the dynamics of the family situation with the potential larger conspiracy of them fucking with her legal case?
I mean, I think that's the justification for doing the dive into the sort of kids and money and stuff in the divorce. It's like, this is all part of a whole of, I don't even know how to, it's not really scapegoating her, but it's sort of using this situation as much to their advantage as they possibly can. So in addition to all this, like, as you guys were just talking about, kind of normal divorce stuff, it's also the way the justice system is handling this case, according to the podcast, is quite different than it would normally be handled. And in the opposite way that you would expect if it was a rich white socialite in Belize who you would figure would get like kid gloves. But in fact, in this accidental manslaughter, which apparently is usually a fine, I guess, and like nobody ever does jail time for it, she is sent to this like...
How lucky that people get do accidental manslaughter, don't go to prison.
From an American perspective, it seems a little strange. But she, like this rich socialite, gets sent to this horrendous prison, and she gets put in like one of the worst cells in this horrendous prison. And I think they say at one point that there's like an infestation of like cockroaches, spiders, and snakes, which a snake infestation would not be the top of my list of things I'd want in my jail cell without a toilet.
And murder hornets.
Murder hornets, yes. There's all kinds of good stuff going on. So when I was kind of listening to this, I was like, okay, it's all kind of this whole, like, we're going to use all the power we have, both as sort of this marital thing, but also being like sort of the power behind the power in Belize to do what we can to mess with Jasmine. It never is really clear. Like, it seems like a hell of a lot of effort where they could just give her $1 million and send her on her way, right? I mean, it's why not just do that? Just like, we're done with you. Take off. You can see the kids every once in a while. That seems like it'd be so much easier than all these machinations that are sort of being implied or taking place in sort of rigging the judicial process to make her life as difficult as possible and sending her to a house in some remote area that's a long way from where she has to check in every single day to her parole officer. It's weird because I kept stepping back. I'm like, this feels like a conspiracy theory to me. Like, it seems like there is probably another solution that you can Occam's razor into believing for yourself other than all these things are kind of conspiring to uniquely screw her. Like, I don't know. It's just like a detail. But at one point when she fires her lawyer, like one of the reasons why she fires him is because he's a Freemason And Michael Ashcroft is like a higher Freemason, and he'll have to take power.
Gotta do what he
like,
does.
Okay,
yeah.
like that's conspiracy 101 right there.
Yeah, it certainly shows that like the things that you get if you have money.
Yeah.
Like all the exclusive content you can get on Patreon.
That's true.
If you subscribe right now, patreon.com/partners in crime media.
That's true.
I mean, we've had a lot of people join since Rebecca started her readathon.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in just 1 second. He said, I was a little intimidated to join your Patreon because you have so much stuff. You don't have to listen to everything, right?
No.
When you subscribe to Netflix, you don't try to watch everything they have on the service.
And we've made it so easy now, right?
So easy. Just pick on one of the collections. You can pick and choose what you want. You don't have to listen to every episode of the Crime Writers On after show, but you can. This week we're talking about a surprise, something. We haven't figured out the topic at this. What are we talking about?
I'm going to get Laura and Toby's impressions on the Karen Reed case.
Karen Reed case. In case you don't think we have enough content about the Karen Reed case, in our Patreon, Rebecca has special bonus
I'm gonna
episodes
ask them some questions
about the Karen Reed case, calling it the Readathon. By the way, it's Monday morning. They're going to be coming back to court today, right?
Yeah.
After Friday.
It's going to be more defense today.
Dog bites, plows, bites and scratches and contusions. It was all good stuff on Friday.
Digital forensics.
Yeah, some other things we've got going on. We got Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. Toby's latest discussion was The Good Girls. And Toby, you had Lauren Bright Pacheco and you had Simone Paget. And it seems like this book that you guys were a little mixed on.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting in that it's a good story. I feel like you get a lot of insight about India and particularly this rural area of India. But like a lot of the stuff you sort of expect from true crime books, like some kind of identification with the victims, sort of portraits of some of the people involved, just kind of wasn't there. So it was kind of a mixed bag, and I probably liked it more than they did. And there's also some tough stuff in there. Like the sort of plight of women in this area is not great. So there's that aspect of it too.
People love reading the books and then getting part of the discussion on the deep dive. We also have Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast. We have our Married with podcast. We just did a live show.
Yeah, it was real fun.
Yeah, you did all sorts of great stuff, including a topic where mom was embarrassed because daughter was caught playing doctor with one of the neighborhood kids.
Yeah, 4 years old.
No, it wasn't 4 years old.
I thought they were like 4.
6 and 5 or what?
They were little.
Yeah,
it was totally not sexual.
Not
in
sexual.
nature.
Yeah. And I'll let you know, because we're coming up on summer and our summer schedule, we have an extra treat for you in the Patreon feed. Rebecca's Other People's Problems game show starts next week. So if you haven't already heard it, every week you're going to get a new episode of OPP.
With theme music by Henry Lavoie.
And maybe an appearance by him as well.
A couple appearances by him, yes. All right, Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now. So, Kevin, who's sponsoring the podcast this time around?
Well, it's our friends from Quince.
Ooh, oh my God.
The weather's getting warmer. Time to ditch the jackets and sweaters and shorts and tees. Just get ready for summer. Why waste money on clothes that will only last one season?
Why? Why do it?
Why do it? Go to Quince.
Kevin, did I not just buy you the best shirt?
Yeah, it's funny because I have here this first bullet point. Quince has all of the seasonal must-haves like
linen shirts,
100% European linen shirts from $30.
I literally just bought you a European linen shirt from Quince.
It was wonderful. It fit great. It held up great in the wash.
Yeah, I love my linen shirts from Quince. Love them.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to wear it all summer long. And you wonder, how do they get things like at these great prices? You should rest assured that Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices along with premium fabrics and finishes. And you look good AF.
Upgrade your wardrobe. Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/crime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crime.
Crime.
Eddie Murphy is back as Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. He's rejoined by familiar faces like Judge Reinhold and John Ashton as Rosewood and Taggart, along with new characters and new hijinks.
I didn't realize that you couldn't really fly helicopters.
Watch Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. only on Netflix, July 3rd. Rated R.
A new client review. Let's see what it says. 1 star. The AC works great, but the tech was late and didn't text us to let us know. Yeah, well, maybe if we didn't write down addresses on sticky notes, that wouldn't have happened. Ugh.
Are you a home service professional who still runs your business with pen, paper, and spreadsheets? It's time to automate your office with Jobber and swear off the old-fashioned way of running a business for good. Quoting, scheduling, invoicing, reviews, and getting paid all with one tool. Start your free trial today at jobber.com.
So, Kevin, we were talking about Jasmine, her unreliability. We were talking about all that stuff. But this podcast is also about something bigger, something unbelievable.
That's pretty good.
I love
You're unbelievable.
I learned so much about, I learned that people from Belize are called Belizeans, which amazing. I learned a lot, but I also.
Do you believe in life after love?
I bet there's a t-shirt that says that on. It sounds like they got their slogans like on lock in Belize.
What a fool believes. And go all day. Think of that till now.
Wow.
Don't stop believing.
You know they have that. All right. So let's talk about the colonialism aspect of the story, because it sounds like Ashcroft is a real Ashcroft when it comes to his kind of like takeover of Belize. He's basically taken advantage of, the tax shelteriness of it. And like, he is, with his just couple of $1 billion, super influential there. How do you feel about the covering of that part of the story here?
Well, I think the episode's the one about Belize. And anyway, actually, we kind of come back to it near the end of the series. And the Ashcrofts, I thought were really the strongest. It's interesting because, at one level, this is a story about colonialism. And Lord Ashcroft, and I think it's funny, it's like, not because he's a member of the aristocracy going back generations, it's because he got $1 billion fucking dollars and like, okay, now you can be a lord.
He bought a bank.
He bought a bank, however that works. But he has taken advantage of just about every possible way he can in exploiting the resources of Belize, which is one of the ways that he's made his billions of dollars. He's the one they call White Devil, right? And so we're using this phrase as the title of the podcast. So is Ashcroft the subject because he's the White Devil, or is Jasmine also a White Devil? I don't know. But I did like the part where Josh went to England and went to the pub, talked to the guy who, what was this thing with the band that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle? That was weird.
The band disappeared in 1984 in the Bermuda Triangle.
Wait, hold on a second. Literally disappeared? They're not just like vanished because they're not famous anymore? Like
literally disappeared. The news report said it was because of an unexplained electrical short on the yacht. No bodies were found.
That was actually my favorite part of the podcast, to be completely honest with you. I like those kind of sidelines. It's interesting, Kevin, what you said about White Devil, because the podcast is called White Devil and it has her picture on the art.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was a very interesting editorial decision.
Well, we do say here, we always have said sort of titles matter because they make a promise about what this story is.
Yeah.
And writers and stuff should be, loath to stray far away from what that title is as far as the stories that they tell.
Yeah.
And so, good question about like, who is the White Devil?
Yeah.
And are we saying we have got more than one? But I don't know. I think titles are more important than cover art.
Laura, what do you think of the Ashcroftiness of the story?
Well, it's interesting because, I go rowing on my rowing machine with the colonialist guy in Africa.
Wait, what?
What?
He's like, I came here to spread religion. I'm like, okay.
Oh, boy.
Colonialism.
Your rowing interactive guy is like a missionary?
He is. And he's like, I'm here out in Africa. And I'm like, okay.
Is this in the podcast or what?
No, anyway.
Oh, all right,
so
okay.
It's something that I was interested in. So, I have never heard of Michael Ashcroft. He's not somebody that is in my, I know who that guy is.
He's like Lord Michael Ashcroft.
Lord Michael Ashcroft. He's 70-year-old sugar daddy, billionaire. You hear about all the people that he's affiliated with in the UK. But everybody in Belize, in this little country, knows him. You hear about how he went there as a child, and then he spends a lot of his adulthood. He's super involved in the politics, and then the bank. He's been Belize's representative to the UN.
For all the power he wields, when it comes down to it, he seems kind of boring. Listen to this guy, appearing here on Channel 5, one of the main TV stations in Belize. It's an Ashcroft-friendly channel that was previously owned by one of his companies.
So I've probably worked harder in the first 6 weeks of the pandemic than I ever have in my life.
So basically, that's why this story is different. Because otherwise, like Rebecca was saying earlier, this could be any divorce story where there's a custody dispute and somebody has money and somebody doesn't have money. The only reason that this story reaches the level that it does is because in Belize, Ashcroft is that well known. I do feel like, yeah, this is definitely slanted towards Jasmine. However, when I hear about Ashcroft, I'm like, well, you can't help but wonder if this rich white guy from the UK is pulling the strings behind the scenes. And I guess that's what we're supposed to believe. But it's hard not to go down that rabbit hole when you hear about his history in that country.
I have to think, Toby, though, we heard this interview with Ashcroft where his son is about to open this like business. And he's like, I wasn't going to help him with that. I don't want anything to do with that. Doesn't it also make you think that like if his son wants to like extricate himself from this relationship, he'd probably be like, I don't want to find anything to fuck to do with that.
Yeah. It's interesting because the way that people talk about the son, like universally is he's not that smart.
Yeah.
He's not competent enough to do like anything that would make him like the actual heir to his father. Like he's going to have people do stuff for him because he can't handle it. And it was interesting. I mean, and clearly the father thinks the same way. And I think like the sort of stereotype of the British aristocrat, like he's not very compassionate about it. Like he's like, oh, you want my help? Well, it's going to suck because I'm going to charge you usurious penalties for borrowing money from me and, you know, make your life miserable.
It's for me, it's a tenuous connection to think that the father would interfere in the relationship stuff when he won't even help him with the business stuff.
Right.
But I also would love to hear your thoughts about like how the podcast kind of takes these side trips into Ashcroft land.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were sort of a plus and a minus in my mind, in that I agree with people that in some ways those were the most interesting parts. But this whole thing is framed around this murder, right? And what kind of grows out of this murder.
Is it a murder, though?
Or whatever it is. I mean, in my mind, I don't know.
It's a shit, yeah.
I'm like not, you know, I'm not like great about like sort of asserting like I feel really strongly about something based on what I heard in this podcast, but given how much everything is slanted towards Jasmine, it seems like entirely reasonable that while they were drunk, something happened and she shot him. Like that doesn't seem like that's really out of the realm of possibility. And then, you know, the family's just doesn't want anything to do with it, so is trying to like put her away, get her out of the way. But regardless of that, I mean, I think what's interesting, again, I like this like sort of end of empire stuff. And it seems maybe just because Belize is so small and doesn't have like super strong institutions anyway, that he seems to have maintained this sort of relationship with the country that most of the rest of the developing world has managed to cast off at this point, where, you know, rich British businessmen don't get to run these countries anymore. And in Belize, for whatever reason, and I guess it's just like this was his little place, and he's managed to kind of continue it. I guess there's kind of positives and negatives to Belize for it. I mean, is what it sounds like. It sounds like he gets a lot of economic development there, but it's all about obviously making money for himself rather than developing the country.
Yeah.
Anyway, I found the digressions were interesting, but again, they just seemed so removed from the story. Like it just seemed like here comes 55 minutes of context, you know, and then you just listen to the whole thing and be like, oh, that was awesome. But what's going on with like the actual, like last thing I knew, Jasmine was in some remote house, like trying to drive back and forth to this police station. And then you wouldn't hear about it for like a couple episodes. And then suddenly you'd be back.
To me, it would have helped if the episodes were in a different order. It would have helped actually a lot. I mean, we hear about what actually could have happened on the dock, like way late in the podcast.
That's 10 or 11. Yeah.
And it's like, I was going through this whole thing, like, well, what happened? But what are you saying happened? What could have happened? Like, why aren't we talking about that? Like, it's not unimportant. And, you know, one of the things that I found frustrating was another thing that was sort of not acknowledged was Jasmine's. Listen, this is one of those things that would bother me if it sort of came up in a different context. But Jasmine does some things in the podcast that we hear on tape and videos and stuff that point to like other like alternative explanations for things. Like she's kind of an asshole when she goes back to that tower to people that used to report to her. And you know, she's like, I know that.
Why are you afraid of the video, Andrew?
I mean, you can say she's putting up a stink so people will see X, but you can also say she's kind of being an asshole. There's two potential explanations there. You could say the same thing when she decides to turn going to the police station into an impromptu press conference. She makes a lot of moments and she tends to do it on camera, you know, and we don't know that this is not what life with her was like before all this. We don't know that. And, you know, there's a lot of things that like, you know what I mean, Kevin, like that just are sort of left there to sort of dangle and are like, are these moments of triumph for her kind of stuff? And that's tied to the crime, that stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, you certainly can tell listening that the podcast has extra textual challenges, right? It's largely one-sided because only one side has agreed to participate.
Correct.
With the exception of obtuse letters coming from lawyers, right? It's a litigious, wealthy man. He's a large part of the story, and he is complicating the story, like the storytelling for Josh Dean in this production. I really wonder what this would be like if Josh had a completely free hand to tell the story exactly how he envisioned it, because you hear multiple times him giving disclaimers, not just like this is what also could happen, but it's, you know, the thing about like, well, they, you know, through his lawyers, he said that this never happened. Like having to do all of that feels like playing defense against a lawsuit or in response to, and that's all very important in order to tell this story.
Right.
But it challenges the way the story gets told and the things that we do here. And I would, you know, in its purest form, draft number 1, I wonder what that looks and sounds like versus, you know, what came out.
So, Laura, I have to ask you, what do you think about Jasmine's attorney, Dickie Bradley, the Better Call Saul of Belize?
I love that guy. I love the fact that, you know, she has like the shitty attorney in the beginning, and then she has Dickie. And Dickie is like way too busy doing the defense attorney thing to find any time to talk to Josh.
Except for right now. I can go do it right now.
Yeah. And then he's like, you can be here in a half an hour. And he's like, he goes down this little side street and he goes in, and Dickie's like, oh, yeah. In like his little white leather chair, like, oh, yeah, how's it going? And I liked how he was like, and he could play himself in the movie, and he totally should play himself in the movie. I think he sort of epitomizes, if you're thinking of who is the defense attorney that is connected, that will fight the system, that knows the people, that is actually the person that should be on this case in Belize, it is this guy. So I thought he was super interesting, and I kind of want to look him up and see what he looks like.
You can do that.
I can do that, Toby.
Search Dickie Bradley, lawyer at law.
Let's do
Attorney
private
law,
investigator.
How do we find Dickie Bradley in Belize?
Oh, wait. It's the first search result. Oh, wow. Oh, he's got like the white shirt. Oh, he's got the porn mustache. There's a lot happening with Dickie Bradley.
The other little cameo that, you know, right as I was just getting really frustrated with Jasmine and just like, oh, God. Like, I just don't, I'm not buying it. Then freaking Piers Morgan appears and got me right back on her side again because he's such a jackass. There's one person who's going to stand for the British aristocracy. It's Piers Morgan. So he makes a quick appearance. It's sort of the same thing as what's her face?
Nancy Grace.
Nancy Grace. He's like the British.
I knew exactly who you were talking about.
Yeah, this is the British Nancy Grace as far as like being able to turn my allegiances on a dime.
But what did you think about, I mean, I know we fluctuate back and forth on Jasmine, and like I did too, but like the situation and the conditions in that jail she went to were not great.
They're not great for anybody.
Exactly.
And that's the whole thing. Part of me was like, you know, yeah, I felt bad that she had to endure them, but she endured them for a few days. And there are people in there who have been enduring them for years and years and years. And while, maybe the charges don't warrant her going there, you know, she went there and she, you know, got out and went back and got out. But there are people who are there who don't have Dickie, who can't get out.
Well, I guess that's what I'm coming from. It's like thinking about when I hear about, you know, prisons and jails in other countries, and especially you hear about the Belize Central Prison, known as it was in a Netflix documentary, is one of the world's toughest prisons. So when you hear about this, and then you hear, like, to me, when I hear somebody that's waiting 2 up to 6 years in that prison with no trial.
Yep.
And you hear about there's 1 to 3 guards per 100 prisoners.
Yep.
And 4 prisoners in a little cell. In 2020, an inmate was shot and killed there by guards after they tried to, like, a group of them tried to escape. Like, I guess more so than like the outrage I have about, oh, here's this woman who's being taken advantage. No, I'm like, what the fuck is happening in the world that there aren't? I mean, I know there are things being done, but when you hear about a prison like this, it's like we are not living in the dark ages, people.
Yeah. Well, we are.
We are, but we shouldn't be. I guess we shouldn't be is what I'm saying.
The only reason why she's there is because she married into a family that's exploiting this entire country. And so, yeah, it sucks. But at the same time, why should she be spared it, right? I mean, the only reason would be because of her wealth.
Yep.
It sucks, as Rebecca was saying, it sucks for anybody to be in a prison, and I would not want anybody at all to be in that prison, but is it uniquely awful that she's there as opposed to anybody else? Like, I don't know. I mean,
right.
I don't think so.
And it's not uniquely awful that she's the only white person there, which got pointed out, which made me uncomfortable.
For 25 years, Mike's has been making lemonade the hard way. Mike's Hard Lemonade. Hard days deserve a hard lemonade. Mike's is hard, so is prison. Don't drive drunk. Premium malt beverage with flavors. All registered trademarks used under license by Mike's Hard Lemonade Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Eddie Murphy is back as Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. He's rejoined by familiar faces like Judge Reinhold and John Ashton as Rosewood and Taggart, along with new characters and new hijinks.
I didn't realize that you couldn't really fly helicopters.
Watch Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. only on Netflix, July 3rd. Rated R.
You're a pro. You don't do DIY. You fix DIY. The only painter in higher demand than you was Picasso. Your flooring mastery leaves floors floored. So why is a pro like you still stuck in the endless cycle of paperwork, scheduling, spreadsheets, and chasing invoices? Automate your office and get back to what you love with Jobber, the all-in-one tool that fits your entire office in your back pocket. Start your free trial today at jobber.com.
They say plants like music. Yeah, no, like really, they respond to the vibrations of it, which means that this playlist you're listening to, the plants are too. You know what else plants like? Organic soil from Miracle Grow. It's made with all the best stuff like wood fiber and compost. Plus, it's OMRI certified organic, which officially means it's made with superior ingredients. And when you give your plants the stuff that makes them happy, they won't judge you on your iffy playlist. Hear that, plants? So go ahead and give them Miracle Grow.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out White Devil? Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for this podcast?
I'm going thumbs sideways. This podcast was way too long. I think at the taping of our review here, we've listened to like 11 episodes. Mm-hmm. It didn't need to be that long. I feel like there was a story of the Ashcroft family, colonialism, Belize, their relationship Belize, that segues into this custody situation and this unexplained death that the former daughter-in-law of this prominent family is involved with. And then there's like this whole side segue into parts of the relationship that I feel like took away from that story. However, it is summer. A lot of people are going to be taking road trips around the country. Here is 11 episodes to listen to on your road trip. It's in a foreign country, an interesting location. There's a question of whether somebody is being taken advantage of by the system and people in power. There's a host that we like who, I like his writing style. So I'm going thumb sideways with this.
All right. Toby Ball, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for White Devil?
I'm not sure yet. So let me talk for a second and then I'll come up with something. I've got sort of strong feelings in a bunch of different directions. Like obviously Josh, Campside, like sort of top of the heap in podcasting. It's an interesting story. It's got a lot of stuff going on, probably too much stuff going on. It's the kind of thing where, unlike most podcasts we listen to, like I think this one we could have done week by week for 11 or 12 weeks and had a good show to talk about each episode. Like there's enough going on, I thought, in each episode to kind of support that. That being said, to me, it felt a little fractured and unfocused at times. And there are times that it would just kind of stray from like sort of the main spine of the story for like an episode or possibly even 2 episodes before it kind of get back to what was sort of propelling the whole story. I just felt like there's got to be some way of weaving this in a little bit more. So you're kind of getting these sort of very interesting contextual pieces while not losing the thread of the main plot line. Like, I just don't think, I think it could have been done a little more creatively, could have integrated it a little bit more. That being said, my sense was that it was very ambitious in that they're trying to describe not just an incident, but a country, an aristocratic family, the relationship between the two, all the stuff that's going on. All that stuff to me seemed sort of more interesting and more notable than maybe the actual sort of event that's sort of at the center of the whole thing. So I guess I'll just say that I'm a sucker for these like flawed but ambitious projects. So because of that, I'll give it a mild thumbs up, but it's another one of those things where the mild thumbs up is kind of an average of things that are awesome and things that I didn't like so much, rather than like being this sort of consistent like 6.5 thing. Like there's some 10 stuff, there's some 3 stuff, whatever. It's reaching for something big. It doesn't quite get there, but mild thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
It breaks my heart, but I'm going thumbs down. It breaks my heart to hear that someone spent years reporting a story and it doesn't turn out well. I don't know if all of that falls at the feet of Josh Dean. There were certainly forces beyond his control that were, that we can definitely tell were interfering with the way the story got told. It's essentially a tale about innuendo and whether or not powerful people are putting their thumb on the scale against someone without really sort of answering why or how or really whether or not. So it just goes on for too long without really telling a story that seems critical or told with a critical eye towards the facts that are in evidence. Again, I really admire Josh Dean, his writing. Even here, his writing is very good. Some of the asides are wonderful. It's hard to achieve the excellence of The Clearing, but this does fall short.
I'm with you, Kevin. I'm giving this a thumbs down. And it doesn't break my heart because that's our job. You know that I like Josh Dean personally a lot. And you know that I like his work, generally speaking. This podcast, to me, suffers from a lot of things. If it's a podcast about Michael Ashcroft, make a podcast about Michael Ashcroft and have Jasmine's story be a part of it. She is the wrong central character, in my opinion. I think that this podcast is somewhat anti-feminist because it takes what is essentially a very common story that happens to a lot of women and makes hers special in a way that it's not. And she's just so incredibly flawed in the way that she presents her specialness that to me, it like, as somebody who's sort of been through something like a little bit similar to what she's going through, I found it like a little bit insulting to hear this being told as sort of a singular event that someone could be treated this way, through a nasty breakup. And so that really bothered me. And it actually made me think like, that would actually be a great podcast, would be a multi-season podcast where you follow women or just people at the lesser side of a power dynamic through breakups. Like that would actually be like a really interesting podcast. Anyway, the sort of taking a flawed subject at their word so many times, it broke the story for me. It kind of broke it. And the context that I needed earlier came too late. The parts I liked the best sort of came too late. There was some side stuff that I loved that came too late. And so, for me, it's about structure. It's about who's your central figure, and it's about credulity, which I don't think the last project I think that we reviewed by Josh Dean, there was also some credulity. That was about the Hollywood guy, remember? Yeah. And that was also a flaw that I think that one had as well. But like this one in particular, if anything bothers me about it, it's hearing him on the ground have that sort of like naivete around like, and sort of like, there's no reason not to believe her. I'm like, there is so much. So that's why I have to give it a thumbs down. And so that's where I am on White Devil. All right, now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of the Week. When 53-year-old Alexander Morris showed up at a Detroit area emergency room with chest pains, he claimed to be the lead singer for the Motown group The Four Tops and was worried for his safety from fans and stalkers. Doctors then switched off his oxygen, placed him in a straitjacket, and ordered a psych evaluation. The problem is, Morris actually is the lead singer for the Four Tops. You might be forgiven for not believing this Gen X crooner.
No, not Belizeing.
Is the front man for the group that struck gold with Reach Out, I'll Be There and Baby, I Need Your Lovin' in the 1960s. Morris joined the Tops in 2018, touring with original member Duke Fakir and 2 other replacements. But there ain't no woman like the one he's got. His wife, his Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, showed the nurses a video of Morris performing at the Grammys. Then they canceled the psych eval and treated his chest pain. The singer has filed a lawsuit against the hospital for racial discrimination, negligence, false imprisonment, and emotional distress. When the hospital realized its error, they offered him a $25 gift card to a grocery store. Instead, Morris is suing for $75,000. So, panel, that's not the same old song.
It's the same.
All right, we get it.
Old song.
What other hard-to-believe claim will someone make when they show up at this emergency room? Laura Bricker, what do you think?
I mean, I have to say, I still think Elvis might be alive out there somewhere. And he's going to show up in an ER just to get the word out.
Toby Ball, what hard-to-believe claim will someone else make when they show up at this emergency room?
I was trying to figure out some way of like working Ted Nugent and the Motor City Madman into being put into a straitjacket, and I couldn't quite figure it out. But that's my thought process.
Kevin, what do you think?
Hard to believe claims that someone will walk in and say, yes, I'll take the $25 gift card to the grocery store instead of suing your ass.
What if someone came in, Kevin, and said, I'm Lightning McQueen from Cars? Would that be weird?
Well, if it's what's his name, Owen Wilson, then it's true. It's true.
All right, Laura Bricker,
I'm Beethoven.
Laura Bricker, if folks want to see you in your many iterations of your potential Renaissance Fair outfits, how can they follow you online?
They can find me at Laura Bricker on Twitter and Instagram.
Tell me, Ball, if folks want to follow you online and learn more about your love for Fall of the Empire stories, how can they find you there?
At Toby Ball NH.
Kevin Flynn, what about you if folks want to follow you?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
You can follow me everywhere on Twitter or Instagram or everywhere else at Reb Lavoie. Follow the show everywhere at Crime Writers On, YouTube, Reddit, everywhere. But I mostly encourage you to join our incredible group at Crime Writers On Facebook. Just find us there and hit join the group. We'll let you in if you can say any of one of our 4 names. That's really the only requirement, and not being a jerk. Get episodes early and ad-free.
It's Lord's Toby Ball, by the way, from now on. Yeah.
Get episodes early and ad-free and all the other stuff we make at patreon.com/partnersincrime media. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our editor is terrific Livy Burdett. The executive producer of this show is Kevin Flynn. This show is recorded in the Treehouse Yoga Studio above the Mockingbird Cafe in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, the Closet, in our New Hampshire basement, where we also write nonfiction books and pressure our friends to buy them.
It is true. We do that.
Yeah. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. I just realized I wasn't reading the script. I was just talking. Okay.
In Crime Media.
Hi, it's Martha Stewart. You know, I spend a lot of time thinking about dirt. At 3 a.m., at all hours of the day, really. What people don't know is that not all dirt is the same. You need dirt with the right kind of nutrients. New Miracle Grow organic raised bed and garden soil is so dense, so full of nutrient-rich, high-quality ingredients. Miracle Grow is simply the best.